Good evening to everyone. Very geschmacklich everyone. Good evening. We're going to jump straight into the Sikha. Parshas Vayera, on most years, or many years, or in fact all years, holds out to be besmichlas to Chav Cheshvan. Holds out to be sometime close to Chav Cheshvan. Chav Cheshvan is a very unique day because Chav Cheshvan is the Rebbe Rashab's Yom Huledes. Chav Cheshvan is the Rebbe Rashab's birthday. The Rebbe first wants to know what's the connection between Parshas Vayera and Chav Cheshvan, meaning between Parshas Vayera and the Rebbe Rashab, as well as the Rebbe wants to know the connection between Parshas Vayera and Chai Cheshvan. Chai Cheshvan was the day of the month that year, Tafshin base, when Shabbos fell to be on, which in fact this year I believe is the exact same Yosef today is the Zayin, tomorrow Friday is Yud Zayin, Shabbos is Yud Ches. So Chai Cheshvan, the Rebbe wants to know what's the connection between Chav Cheshvan, Parshas Vayera, and Chai Cheshvan. Before we start the actual taking of the Sikha, that was the first part where the Rebbe sort of introduces what he wants, so the question goes slide us into the Teichen. I want to first just point out what the bomb of the Sikha is. Every Sikha of Tafshin and Tafshin base has a certain bomb. And the reason is very simple. The reason is because the Sikha of Tafshin and Tafshin base, the Rebbe is literally transforming history. The Rebbe lets us know, as every Sikha goes by, what progress we made throughout history, in the timeline of history, quote unquote, what progress we made. So literally every single Sikha, the Rebbe moves it a notch higher. We're a step closer. So last 2 weeks ago, Parshas Noach, Tafshin Nun Beis, for whoever learned the Sikha, I know it was before the Mitzvah, but nevertheless, the Rebbe over there says that En Adavar Tolui Ela B'Mashiach Titkenu Atzmai, that the only thing which is left is Parshas up to Mashiach Titkenu himself. The next step, which was Parshas Lech Lecha last week, the Rebbe moved on to the next thing, which is Mitzad our Abayda. We could already start looking at Mechin B'Etzem. In this week's Sikha, the Rebbe is going to lay a bomb. And I'm going to say the bomb, and then we're going to say the actual Sikha as a build-up. But the bomb that the Rebbe lays in the Sikha is that in our generation, not just do we have the physical human being, which is potentially capable of being Melech HaMashiach, but in fact, we already have the Galus. We already have the revelation of Melech HaMashiach as Melech HaMashiach in this physical world as a person. We're going to build up, we're going to learn the Sikha together, but that is the bomb of this Sikha. Every Sikha has its own stage that the Rebbe is building of sports. The stage that we reached, that they were walking into this week, is the fact that we have not just the Metzius of Melech HaMashiach in the person, but furthermore, we have these galus of Melech HaMashiach as Melech HaMashiach in the world, as we will see slowly but surely. And from here, going straight back into the beginning of the Sikha, there's a famous story of the Rebbe Rashab when he was 4 or 5 years old. He walked into Zayden, the Tzemach Tzedek, for a Yechidus, I believe it was on his birthday itself, and he tells the Tzemach, it was Shabbos Kodesh Parshas Vayera, and he starts crying. And why is he crying? He tells the Tzemach Tzedek, it's not fair. Why is it that the Eibishter has revealed himself to Avraham Avinu, but to us, the Eibishter did not reveal himself? A young child crying because he wants to have a Gila Velokus. The Tzemach Tzedek replied to him, well, when a tzaddik is 99 years old, and he decides to give himself a bris, he is worthy that the Eibishter should reveal himself to him. The Rebbe, quoting the story, says, wow, fantastic. This Sikha, in this story, you see an unbelievable thing, that in order to be able to get a Gilia Velokos, a Yid has to be on a level of being 99 years old and deciding to give himself a bris. Wow, what a story. The Rebbe Rashab definitely got his answer. The Rebbe Rashab himself was a tzaddik. Unbelievable story. But there's the obvious question. The obvious question is that seemingly this story is more discouraging than encouraging. Because the takeaway of this story basically is that if we want to have a Gilui of Shem Havayeh, we have to be on the level where when we're 99 years old, we're willing to give ourselves a bris. And of course, we are not on that level. And this story basically is telling us that we don't really have a shayachus to a Gilui of Shem Havayeh. Let's talk practical. Me and you sitting in this room want to experience the Gilui of Shem Havayeh. The criteria that the Tzemach Tzedek gives, we don't fit. The question is, so what's the point of telling us a story? To discourage us from wanting to have a Gilui Elokus. To understand this, we first have to understand, Bechlal, what did this bris milah accomplish? Right, we're saying that because Avraham Avinu got a bris, that's why he was zeicha by Gilui of Shem Havayeh. We have to understand what did the bris really accomplish? Well, the answer is already in the first pasuk of the parasha, Vayera elav Hashem, and the Rebbe approaches this from both angles of Hashem and from the angle of Avraham Avinu. Says the Rebbe the following: the Gilui of Eibishter, the level of Eibishter which was revealed to Avraham Avinu, the level of Eibishter which was revealed to Avraham Avinu after the bris was a much higher level of Eibishter than it was before the bris. To say it in very simple words, after the bris was Gilui of Shem Havayeh, and before the bris was a Gilui of Shem Elokim, which we know the difference is that one is beyond nature, one is in nature. After getting a bris, Avraham Avinu was zeiche to get a level of Eivishter which is beyond the world. The chiddush of the bris also affected, the effect of the bris also applied to Avraham Avinu, not just to which level of Hashem is being revealed to him, but also to the fact that Avraham Avinu is now a kli. Avraham Avinu is now able to handle this tremendous revelation of Hashem. In fact, that's why it says, Vayeshev Avraham, Vayeshev kechayim hayoim, even though it was chayim hayoim, even though there was the heat of the day, referring to, famously, the heat represents the sun, which the sun represents Shem Havayeh. So, Avraham Avinu sitting kechayim hayoim, there's a Gilui of Shem Havayeh. In other words, the Gilui of this higher level of Eibishter, which is beyond the world, which is revealed to him because of the bris, and he's Vayeshev. Vayeshev means he's Yashvus. He's able to handle it. He's capable of taking it in. So in other words, the chiddush of the bris, to summarize again, the chiddush of the bris is in two folds. Mitzad the Eibishter, the chiddush is that a much deeper level of the Eibishter is being revealed to Avraham Avinu, Shem Havayeh. And mitzad Avraham Avinu, the chiddush is that now he is capable of handling more lakus in a settled way and not having klois nefesh of the sort. Whereas before the bris, we would not be able to handle such a high level of Gilui lakus. Then if it takes that a step further, the truth is a bris milah has in the two opposites. A bris milah has in the two opposites. On the one hand, we find that the bris milah is the most important mitzvah in the Torah. 13 times the Eibishter uses the word bris regarding the mitzvah of bris milah. In other words, the Eibishter considers this to be the biggest covenant between, the biggest bridge, the biggest stamp of connection between us and him. At the same time, what is the bris? On a very physical level, the bris is the most physical mitzvah we have in the Torah. It's literally a mitzvah which is done on a physical piece of skin, physical piece of meat, and how much more so when we take into account that pung, that limb is the one limb that can actually perform the worst of Vedas. And nevertheless, that's exactly where the Eibishter wants to have a stamp of connection with us. So how do you explain it? How do you explain that the deepest and most profound expression of connection between us and Hashem, the mitzvah which causes and triggers a Gilui of not just the lakus, but a Gilui of Atzmos, which the difference between the lakus and Atzmos is that the lakus is only a revelation of Hashem, while Atzmos is the Eibishter himself, is Hashem himself. How do you explain that the mitzvah of the bris, which is the only mitzvah that we know about as of now, which triggers the Gilui of Atzmos L'Ma'ut of the Eibishter himself, how do you explain the fact that that mitzvah is enclosed and expressed and stamped on the most physical part of the of this world, which is on the human body, in that limb specifically? Says the Rebbe, exactly for that reason is why it triggered. Again, question is clear. Why is the deepest level of Eibishter being triggered and revealed specifically by the lowest type mitzvah? Lowest in this context means most enclosed and most to do with the physical world. For example, just put by saying contrast, getting a bris versus putting on tefillin. What looks more spiritual? What looks better? What looks more holy? Tefillin, you can't go into the bathroom with tefillin. It's holy. You can't have a result of tefillin. You have to have kavanah the whole time. You have to be davening with tefillin, and so you have to be, you within the shema and made the shema. When the halacha, if the halacha makes you have to be square, not circle, black, not white. So many different halachas. Tefillin seem to be a lot more significant than holy. But the truth is the opposite. And Dafka the bris, which is that we goes with us into the bathroom and fakir. That's Dafka over there. That's where Atmos Mahos is most pumping verse and the other mitzvah. And the question is why? Why is it that the lowest type mitzvah triggers the deepest level of Eibusha to be revealed? And the answer is for exactly that. What is the Eibusha looking for when Hashem creates the world? What is the Eibusha looking for when it creates the world? The answer is, of course, Hashem wants to be revealed specifically in the physical world. Which means, in other words, the deepest intention that Hashem has by creating the world is to find himself in the physical world. So when I come and I take on a physical object, for example, the bris, and I do a mitzvah with the physical object, and now the physical object itself is the mitzvah. By cutting up the piece of skin, that is the mitzvah. The fact that the skin is not there anymore is also a mitzvah. Comes the Eibusha and says, "Oh, al geshmak mechayet. Here I find myself in Elam Hazeh Gashmi." When you put on tefillin, it's gashmius. Tefillin are physical, but it's not a stamp in the physical world that I exist as an Eibusha. A bris milah is a stamp in the physical world that me, the Eibusha, exists. Says the Eibusha, that's exactly the point. They're in the lowest level. Dafka in the Gashmiut is where we're going to find the deepest parts of Hashem. In other words, the Eibusha is the most interested specifically in the most physical mitzvahs there are. This gives us a deeper glimpse, a deeper explanation why Avraham Avinu was Zayden, why Avraham Avinu merited to be able to experience a higher level of Shem Havayeh, specifically after the bris. Until the bris milah, what was Avraham Avinu involved in? He was involved in doing what Hashem wants, recognizing us in existence. But the moment Avraham Avinu gets a bris milah, Avraham Avinu connects the Eibusha into the physical world. Now inside the physical world there's a stamp, which declares that Hashem exists. Now the Eibusha is involved. Now the Eibusha is excited. And I found myself a dira in the tachting. Which is why Avraham Avinu, which is the host, which is the one that has the bris, he becomes the host for this Gilui of Atmos Mahos. Now fast forward a little bit post Matan Torah. Every single one of us sitting in this room, and every single yid in general, has a bris. And even if a yid doesn't physically have a bris, nevertheless, it is counted as if every single yid has a bris. The Rabbi brings a famous halacha. If somebody says koinam, which koinam means I make a swear that I'm not going to have benefit. A person makes a swear I'm not going to have benefit from any circumcised Jew, from Muli Yisrael. I'm not going to have any benefit from any Jewish person which is circumcised, which has a bris milah. The halacha is not allowed to have any benefit from any Jewish person which has a bris milah. How about a person which doesn't have a bris milah? Could you have enough from a person which does not have a bris milah? Regular logic would say, yeah. He said, I make a swear not to have enough from people which have a bris, which means people which don't have a bris, I could have enough from. Comes the halacha and says, no, he cannot have enough from any yid. Even if the yid does not have a bris, still, you cannot have enough from the person. Why? Because even though physically a yid may not have a bris, but we consider it as if he has a bris, which means in simple words, what's a bris? A bris means that there's something holy about my physical body. Well, by Matan Torah, the Eibusha chose our physical body. That means that the accomplishment of the bris, which is that there should be a physical piece of meat which has holiness in it, that was accomplished by Matan Torah to every single Jewish body. Every single Jewish body, the Gashmius, is holy because Hashem chooses our bodies. Of course, we should make sure to get a bris. The most terrible thing if a person doesn't have a bris. But the holiness is there in the physical body of a yid, even though he doesn't have a bris. What's the point? The point is that Gilui of Shem Havayeh that Avraham Avinu received because of his bris, we have that same Gilui of Shem Havayeh now after Matan Torah no matter what, just from the fact that we're Yidden. Okay. Now we go back to the story of the Rebbe Rasha. By the way, the Rebbe over here points out a very interesting thing, which is that we see that this neshama that every single Yid has a tremendous effect on the neshama, on the person, even subconsciously. The Rebbe gives an example from a child. A child doesn't necessarily understand much, but a child enjoys kissing the mezuzah. A child enjoys making a bracha before and after his food. A child is somebody who has his room becomes a holy room. He has a pushka, he has a chitas, whatever it is inside his room. A child is someone who is neshama is most begilui, although he has the least level of understanding. Why? How do you explain? Why is a child so attracted to do and to connect to Hashem, even though his brain is not so developed to be able to think about Hashem? The answer is because he has a neshama. Oh, so we see that the neshama, which is inside every single yid, really has a real effect. Going back to the story of the Rebbe Rashab. The Rebbe Rashab comes to the Tzemach Tzedek, and he's crying to the Tzemach Tzedek. Why is it that Abraham Avinu had a Gilui of Elokus and I don't? What's he crying about? He's saying, I'm not asking for something which I don't deserve. I'm not crying for something which I don't have any connection to. On the contrary, says the Rebbe Rashab to the Tzemach Tzedek, I know that I have a neshama. I know that neshama is present within me. And I'm crying exactly because of that. How could it be that I know that I have a neshama and I'm not experiencing it? How could it be that I know that I have a part of Hashem present, existing within me, and I am not capable to experience it? And I'm not experiencing something revealed to me. I'm not feeling it. That is even more frustrating than having no connection. A yid, a person that has no connection to a certain object, feels bad he doesn't have it. But a person that has access to a certain object, it belongs to him, but he's not able to actually have it locked in an account, it's a lot more frustrating. When I know that it's mine, and technically speaking, I could use it. And technically speaking, I could feel it. But tachlis is, bottom line is, I'm not able to because for whatever reason I'm held back from actually using that which belongs to me. It's a lot more frustrating. So the Rebbe Rashab comes to the Tzemach Tzedek and he cries to him. He tells him, how could it be that I have a neshama, I have a chilek elokah, but I'm not able to experience it, I'm not able to feel it? The Tzemach Tzedek's response to him is, you're right. You have a neshama. And you deserve to experience it. But in order to fully experience your neshama, to fully feel the elokus, for that you're going to have avodah. For that you're going to have to work. What's the work? The work is to get a bris. To get a bris means to do whatever I got to do in order to make a deal with the chayim. To do what I have to do to connect to Hashem in the physical world. Comes the Rebbe and says, if you remember, we asked the question in the beginning that seemingly this story is more discouraging than encouraging. Comes the Rebbe and said on the contrary. This is the most inspiring story. The first takeaway of the story is that a yid has to know that my connection to Hashem is not something that Hashem is outside of me. Rather, it's that Hashem is fully present within my life. I have a neshama. My neshama is a part of Hashem. The awareness that I have a neshama, which is a part of Hashem within me, that is exactly what triggers by me a yearning to want to experience and feel that neshama. One more time. The fact that I know that I have a neshama within me, that awareness is what triggers within me a yearning to want to experience and feel my neshama. And that leads to the third step. After I'm aware and after I have a yearning, that leads to the third step, which is avodah b'poel. Now I'm going to do what I have to do. In other words, I'm going to work hard to serve Hashem and to really put myself on the line to be able to really experience my neshama. This is all connected to Chai Cheshvan, and the reason is because Chai represents life, the neshama, the Eivishter, injected into Cheshvan. Cheshvan representing the most mundane month of the year. We all know the Chodesh Cheshvan, famously, there's no Yom Tovim, no Purim, no Chanukah, no Pesach, no Shavuos, but nothing. And at the same time, we have a Chai, we have a neshama. We take the Chai and we bring it into the Cheshvan. This is also connected to Keser, to Chav Cheshvan, because Chav, as we'll see, we'll keep it in a moment. Ad Kan is the first part of the Sikha. I will call this first part of the Sikha for a moment the build-up. And now, we're going into the second part of the Sikha, which is the actual juice. It's shorter than the first part, but it's the actual juice of the Sikha. So if you're learning the Sikha, in order to actually get inspired, this is the part where you tune in most, because this is the most mind-boggling part. And if it's okay with you, I'll take questions momentarily after the shir, in other words, in order not to keep everybody up holding, because we have Maidiv and a schedule, and I don't want to hold everybody back too long. So if it's okay, all your questions, write it down on the back of your paper, and I'm happy to address it after the shir. Comes the Rebbe and says like this. And again, we're entering now the second part of the Sikha, which is the juice of the Sikha, which could only be understood based on the first part, obviously. We all know that the coming of Mashiach means the Eibishter being revealed. Every single Yid within himself has a nitzitz of Mashiach, has a spark of Mashiach within him. Said the Rebbe, the same way, the fact that I have a neshama, that awareness that I have a neshama, causes by me a yearning to want to experience my neshama. That same way, the fact that I know that I have within myself a nitzitz of Mashiach, the fact that I know that I have within myself a part of Mashiach, that itself causes by me a yearning to want to connect to the nitzitz Mashiach, to the spark of Mashiach within me. One more time. The fact that I know that within myself there's a spark of Mashiach, that itself causes by me a yearning to want to connect to that spark of Mashiach within me. Now, if you let me take this a step further, the Rebbe says, in other words, what are we saying? That there's a certain spark of Mashiach within me which already exists. And what is it a matter of? It's just a matter of revealing and connecting to that spark of Mashiach within. That's the Rebbe. Same thing goes regarding Melech HaMashiach. Right now in the world, says the Rebbe, we have the Metzius, we have the existence, the presence of Melech HaMashiach in the world. The Rebbe is continuing in the same tone as the Rebbe started at the beginning of the Sikha. We right now have the presence of a neshama in our life. Right now we have it's a matter of just revealing it. That's the Rebbe saying. Same thing regarding Melech HaMashiach. Right now in the world we have the presence of Melech HaMashiach. What is it a matter of? It's a matter of, number one, becoming aware of it. Hello? A matter of, number one, becoming aware of the fact that we have Melech HaMashiach in the world with us. Number two, if and when I recognize that, wow, that's crazy, there's Pashut of Melech HaMashiach in the world, there's an actual physical person in this world which is going to take us out of Golus, that awareness itself makes me realize I want this to happen already. It's real, it's tangible, it's happening. Why am I not part of it? It causes by me a tremendous trukah, tremendous yearning to want to connect to this Melech HaMashiach. And of course, the third step is that it triggers by me an Aveda to actually get a brisket of 99. In other words, to be able to actually work on being, we're going to see in a moment what the Aveda is. So as of now, the Rebbe is saying that there's a Metzius of Melech HaMashiach in the world. But, and this is a very important but, that was true throughout all the generations. The Chasam Sofer writes that in every single generation, there's Echad Aroi Mitidkasei Lies Goyel. There is one person in every single generation who the Eibishter keeps that person just in case this generation is going to merit the coming of Mashiach. This person is going to be the person to be Goyel of Yisrael. So in every generation, the Eibishter always makes sure there's at least one person which is in the right mind, the right space, to actually take the Eden out of Golus as Melech HaMashiach. But what's the chiddush of our generation? So what's the chiddush of our generation? And throughout every single generation, we have a Metzius of Mashiach. We have an existence, a person, which really is a physical person, which potentially could take the Eden out of Golus. So what's the chiddush of our generation? That's the Rebbe the Father. In our generation, and again, I daven that we don't just take these words as a part of the mitzvah, but we recognize that this is crazy that the Rebbe is introducing to us such real concepts, such a reality. The whole world looks different after learning the Sichos. The whole world looks different after learning the Sichos. The Emunah and Vayera Mashiach is a whole different Mashiach. Listen to this very carefully. Listen to this very carefully. Very carefully. What is the chiddush of our generation? The chiddush of our generation is that not just we have the potential Mashiach, meaning the person which potentially given Mashiach, but in our generation, something happened that did not happen in any other generation, which is the Melech HaMashiach is already revealed. There's the Yisgalus of Melech HaMashiach. Now, what that means is very simple. The Rabbi quotes the Chasam Sofer. When you open the Chasam Sofer, you see a very simple pshat. Chasam Sofer says that when Moshe Rabbeinu was coming to be revealed to take the Yidden out of Galus, this part is not in the name of the Sikha, don't be confused. This following thing I'm going to say, up until this point, everything was in the Pnim, in the Sikha. This that I'm going to tell you now is the end of the quote that the Rebbe starts to quote in the Sikha, which is the Chasam Sofer. Chasam Sofer describes that Moshe Rabbeinu's revelation when he came to make Yidden out of Mitzrayim was in 3 steps. The first step was the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu existed. Good, we have a potential Mashiach, potential person taking Yidden out of Mitzrayim. The second step was by the Snen. You should just know, by the way, before I just give you these diamonds that I'm about to give you, in the world, the people who learn the Sikhs struggle to understand this concept. What does it mean that Melech HaMashiach was already Galit? Many Bachar, many Mashpi, many people struggle with this concept. I went and I bothered a lot of very smart people, and I'm telling you real stuff, so don't take it lightly. This is information that most people that learn the Sikha don't understand what these words even mean. I'm giving you now real gems. Chaval to waste it on being spaced out. As the Chaim very carefully, it's unbelievable. The second step is with Moshe Rabbeinu by the Sneh. By the Sneh, Hashem told him, not just that you're the potential person to take the Yidden out of Galus Mitzrayim, you are the actual one to do it. You're not the potential, you're the actual. And it's going to happen in this generation. You're going to be the one to actually do it. Moshe Rabbeinu got the memo. Moshe Rabbeinu got the message from Hashem. Good. Moshe Rabbeinu was pumped up. Hashem appointed him officially, not just as the potential Mashiach, but also as the actual girl until he saw the Yidden out of Galus Mitzrayim. But guess what happens? Guess what happens? Moshe Rabbeinu goes to the Yidden, and Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Yidden, Chevre, I want to tell you that Hashem revealed himself to me, not just am I the potential guy taking you guys out of Galus Mitzrayim. Actually, I am the guy which is going to take you guys out of Galus Mitzrayim. Hashem revealed himself to me. It's going to happen in our generation after 210 years in Mitzrayim, and I'm the one that Hashem actually chose to take you out of Mitzrayim. The Yidden's response wasn't so encouraging. I don't know if you guys ever noticed in Chumash, the Yidden were mekabel. The Yidden were not happy. On the contrary, the Yidden were very upset on Moshe Rabbeinu. But when Moshe Rabbeinu came with Tziras Geula, Moshe Rabbeinu came with this announcement that the Yazvan you lost them, Pare made the Avodah much harder. Pare said, until now I gave you bricks, now you're going to have to make your own bricks. And you know what the Yidden's response was? They didn't were all excited and said, it's fine, don't worry, the main thing is that Moshe Rabbeinu. No, they were upset on Moshe Rabbeinu. They said, look at you guys. Because you came to redeem us, that's why we have to suffer more. Get out of here. You want it. We don't want to see you guys. The Yidden had a very hard time with it. And they were wrong. The Yidden were wrong because they didn't know better. How are they supposed to know better? A guy comes, he says, Hashem spoke to me, take you guys out of Galus, happening in our generation, and then things get worse. What do you expect is the thing? But that was the second step. The third step, so we have the potential, which is Moshe Rabbeinu, the first step. We have the second step, which is the Sneh, when Hashem reveals himself to Moshe Rabbeinu, tell him, you're not just the potential, you're the actual one to do it in this generation. And the third step, of course, is the Geula Amitis Vashlema. The Geula out of Mitzrayim. That's the Chasam Sofer. The exact same process is going to happen with Melech HaMashiach. First, there's going to be a potential Mashiach in every generation. Then there's going to be a second step, where Hashem is going to reveal himself to Melech HaMashiach, the potential person, and Hashem is going to tell him, you should know, you're not just the potential guy, you're the actual guy. Throughout all generations, every generation has someone with the potential. But that was never actualized. You're the actual Mashiach. And it's going to happen in your generation. Just like Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu by the Snan. I'm quoting you the Chasam Sofer, Chavre. I'm not telling you Chasam Shebertel. Or shall be Niglet. Melech HaMashiach gets the memo just like Moshe Rabbeinu gets the memo. You're the actual one. And then the Yidden are going to have the choice. Either they're going to learn from the mistake of the Yidden and Mitzrayim that did not believe Moshe Rabbeinu, or on the contrary, they're going to get hyped, or either they're going to repeat the same mistake of, oh, well, we don't see it in the world, or they're going to realize that, no, on the contrary, the Yidden and Mitzrayim made a mistake by not believing Moshe Rabbeinu. We're not going to make the same mistake, and we are going to commit ourselves to Melech HaMashiach to do everything that he says, because we know that if Hashem revealed himself to this person, that means that he's actually going to be going to Israel. He's going to actually take it out ourselves. Going back into the Sikha, Ad Kan was a Chasam Sofer, which is not in the Panim of the Sikha. It's the continuation of the beginning quote that the Rebbe brings. Going back into the Sikha, when the Rebbe says that we have not just the Metzius of Melech HaMashiach, but we have these galus of the Mashiach, what that means is, just like what the Chasam Sofer says, that our generation, Hashem already revealed himself to this Melech HaMashiach to tell him, you're going to be the actual one to take the Yidden out of troubles. What this means to us practically, I don't know if you're aware, but right after this Sikha, the Rebbe didn't give it out, there was Margia, and it was published, Kuntus Beis HaBenashim Bavaro. I'm sure everyone's aware that over there, the Rebbe said, the Nasi Adar, which is the Melech HaMashiach of the Dvar, 770 Eastern Parkway, Beis HaMikdash is going to come, not to Yerushalayim first. Beis HaMikdash will come first to 770 Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn, New York. From there, with 770, it's going to go to Yerushalayim. Crazy ACAs. This Sikha is a mind-boggling Sikha. If you never had a chance to learn it, it's a must for every single chassid. But the point is, what the Rebbe is telling us in this Sikha, like I said, it's emphasized even more in the Kudus, which was given out 2 days later, says the Rebbe in very clear words, basically, that he is the Nasi Adar. The Rebbe says the Frierdiker Rebbe, Nasi Doreinu, Mashiach Shebedoreinu. Of course, our Nasi Adar is not the Frierdiker Rebbe, our Nasi Adar is the Rebbe. Says the Rebbe, not just we have the Echad Aroi B'Tzid Kosei, not just we have the Metzius, the potential, but the Rebbe, Hashem already revealed himself to the Rebbe and told him, you are going to be the one to actually take the Yidden out. It's going to happen in this generation. However, we have to start realizing that we're partial in the last generation of Golus, and we're the first generation of the Geula, which means practically we partial have Melech HaMashiach amongst us. Our Nasi Adar, which gives us a Yerois, it's not just a Yerois. It's a Yerois from Melech HaMashiach himself, which is already Nisgalit. He's already revealed. Hashem already revealed himself to him and told him, you're the actual one. So what's our avodah? Our avodah is to be mekabel Mashiach. Mekabel. What does he do mekabel it? Well, let's go back into the spirit of the Sikha. The Rebbe's pattern in the Sikha is very simple. The first step of a Yid experiencing his neshama is number 1, awareness. I have to be aware that I have a neshama. I have to be aware that I have a Nichas Mashiach. And same thing over here, I have to be aware that we have a Melech HaMashiach in our generation. After I have an awareness, the next step is I have to have a yearning. Not that I have to have a yearning. Once I have an awareness of what kind of a special time we're in, automatically I'm going to have a tremendous yearning to want to connect to this Melech HaMashiach. The next step is going to be the Avodah B'Poel. The Avodah B'Poel of having a yearning. Once I have a tremendous yearning to want to receive Mashiach, the Avodah B'Poel is that every single Machshava Dibur Ma'aseh, every single peula that I do are masim, are fitting for the Yemais Mashiach. I'm eating, I'm drinking, I'm sleeping, I'm sitting by a shear, I'm listening, I'm walking, I'm talking to a friend. Anything. Is this the way I'm going to feel when Mashiach comes or not? I want to be able to act now already as I'm going to be able when Mashiach comes. Why? Because for me it's clear that there's already a Melech HaMashiach in the world and I'm already mekabel him. I already accept him. For me, he's already the boss. For me, he's already in charge. And Pashte Verter, a chassid, a yid, becoming aware of the fact that the Eibush already spoke to the Rebbe and told him, this is going to be the generation. As the Rebbe told us countless times, we are the last generation of Galus, the first generation of Geula, which means, where are the ones to Pashim Begashmius Griv Mashiach? When a chassid becomes aware of this fact, his kashrus looks entirely different. When the Rebbe gives me a Ha'irah, it's not that the Rebbe tells me I have to come, so I have to go, I have to come, so I have to do, so I have to learn. No! It's Melech HaMashiach uplifting us to the level of being able to be mekabel with him. to be able to accept him, to be able to live him. If a chassid really chooses to dedicate his life to do what the Rebbe says, that is a chassid which is living in Yemais HaMashiach. He was Mekabel Melech HaMashiach as his Melech. He accepted Melech HaMashiach to be his king. And by default, if I'm living such a lifestyle, doing everything that the Rebbe wants and nothing else, I'm living in Yemais HaMashiach. I'm living in a time period where I'm Mekabel already the Rebbe's Melucha. And of course, the goal is to get the whole world to be Mekabel. As the Rebbe says famously next week, to make the whole world aware of this. There's a lot more to say. But to break it down into 3 stages, stage number 1 is awareness. Stage number 2 is a yearning to want to have it. Stage number 3 is the avodah build to get there. How do we create the awareness? And I'm going to conclude with this. How do we create this awareness? The way we create this awareness, as the Rebbe in the Sikha, is through the Rebbe Rashav, and this is how through learning Chassidus and Inyanagil Mashiach properly. And this Sikha, the Rebbe focuses very much on the Rebbe Rashav and Chassidus. The through Pasha learning Chassidus in an organized fashion, as the Rambam, as the Rebbe Rashav is known as the Rambam of Chassidus, because the Chassidus is very organized. When a Chassid Pasha learns Chassidus properly and really thinks about it, and really davens it, and really takes it in properly by Krish Mashallah Mito. When a chassid takes chassidus really real into heart, that's how I become aware of the fact that I really have an Eivester. I really have a neshama. I really have an Mashiach. We really have Menachem Mashiach. And by default, that creates by me a yearning to want to experience it. And by default, that causes me to be an avodah. I'm going to work hard to get there. And by Mela, when we say today's Gal, say with miyad mamish. Thank you very much. With everyone, chips, it's thick. Thank you. Right. Really, fix them. What back? He said, literally, rollers and all know what they're doing. What is good and no, I know it. What is it? Very scared, but I mean, now got it. He said, everything is water. Yeah. Because of the little year, he didn't tear it down. That was a click. For then, if I'd go on, I thought of it. Well, and if people did it after calling, rag, come the line out at break. I'm the I'm tired you've been floated with me. I feel it down. So to be a free revenue. Oh, no, wait. You're tired. Yeah, but it's going in the company. Why, you did, I had no idea. Right now. When the sick off, what did they consider? Yeah. And you're out of that. Hell, you're out of the. In the clinic, you have to get the word out and put up on stage. Yeah. But then I pick up on the it's a habit. I don't know. Oh, and then from this, I just say it very well. We use this sacred here. Hey, like, how's it when I am? Mine are frozen, Celtic. Like, when everyone's to get below that. Oh, that's how he's doing to me there. I thought, oh, second. And he has the good valley. For the fully, the most important to get your head. Well, I the stash there. However, it's difficult. Hey, I'm other thoughtless. I'm the bit arbitrary. This is the question of your thought. I did it practice and isn't that it wasn't great found pot? If there's we're going backwards. But it doesn't allow it. And I don't hear about and our anxiety is live and here outlet for that into it. And what the year to come point to bit art. And that was it. We got to get on with you help the masters. Hey, to the health care. We've got here for having you over master for today. First, we'll not back over it. Here, but I was all large with the line. What brings to it? Instead of continuing to yes, there are people that deserve the brave that war worlds. You have what? Instead. But it's you serious? What? You're the victim for the article on. It's tighter.